guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Eve Hemingway, and if you're new here, please hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss another video. So as you already might know, I'm going to Vietnam next week and I'm meeting up with the father of my child, Eric. So I thought it might be appropriate to make a video about how we met and basically what's going on with us now. I apologise in advance if I do get a little bit ranty, because what's going on with the government at the moment with capping down on immigration, Brexit, Donald Trump specifically, it just makes it extremely difficult for us to be together as a family, and for Edward to see his father, it's just so annoying. But yeah, let's just get into this video. So, how me and Eric first met. I studied abroad for a semester in California. Eric is also an international student, so he's actually Vietnamese, so he's studying abroad there for the full 4 years, whereas I was just there for a semester. We lived in the same dorms on campus, and he actually was 2 doors down from me. But I think the first time we actually spoke was at a party, obviously, because it's university. About a week later, it was Valentine's Day and Eric asked me out. I had actually already been asked out by 2 other people and one of them actually asked me to go to Disneyland. I mean, Eric must have been worth it for me to choose him over Disneyland. So Valentine's Day we went on a date. We went to a Vietnamese restaurant where I first had Vietnamese food and it was so nice. Yeah, and then we went for a few drinks after, and yeah, it was really nice. So during the time we travelled around America together. We went to Vegas during spring break. We went to Mexico. We travelled around after we had finished the semester as well with a bunch of us. We went to Grand Canyon, Yosemite, Vegas again. Yeah, it was really cute, and that was literally the best time of my life. I love all you guys who we travelled around with. We need a reunion. So yeah, after travelling around, I went back home to the UK for 2 weeks, I think. And then I travelled over to Vietnam for a couple of weeks where I met Eric's family and we travelled around Vietnam, and it was so amazing. I honestly love Vietnam. But this was when things started to go wrong. When I was over in Vietnam, this was when the vote for Brexit came through. Is it Brexit or Brexit? Either way, I call it Brexit, so we'll stick to that. But yeah, when that was announced, I actually cried, not gonna lie. It just made me so angry and so upset that all these papers, tabloids, the Daily Mail, had been manipulating the public into thinking that all immigrants coming into this country are bad and they are the worst people ever and we need to claim back our soil. This just makes me so angry. Obviously there were other reasons people voted for Brexit. Again, the Daily Mail saying that the NHS is gonna get this much more funding if we come out of the EU, which was total bullshit. Like, this is why we should not read these papers, yet they still keep creating these ridiculous headlines and people still read into it. Right, I'm sorry, I'll stop myself before I go too much into a rant about that. Let's just get back into this story. But yeah, so basically I knew this was going to affect me and Eric staying together because I knew that the UK wanted to cap down on immigration completely, and yeah, this would just make it harder for us to have the option to live in the UK together. So then after Vietnam, Eric actually came back with me to the UK and we travelled around. We went to Scotland, Liverpool, London. But then when Eric had to go back to America, that was when I found out I was pregnant. In my final year at university, me and Eric actually discussed and tried to make plans that just would fall apart all the time. We'd constantly have to readjust what we were gonna do, what our plans were. It completely stressed me out. I was depressed, and eventually that led to postnatal depression, and I would say that's pretty much why I got that. But a nice part of this story was that I actually went over to California during my reading week. It was meant to be as a surprise, but I had told one of my friends who is already over there, and he actually told Eric, "Are you looking forward to Eve coming over?" And he was like, what? A good thing about that was that Eric had plenty of preparation time to propose to me. So this is what happened on the 5th of November 2016.
No, 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 don't get down on one knee. Why? No, okay, no. Oh my god. No, I don't want to see it. No, I don't want to.
Keith Hemingway?
No. Oh. Yeah, obviously.
So what happened next was Eric decided to take the semester out after Christmas. This was when we found out that the regulations on visas is quite complicated, and we had to obviously look into the right visa for him to get and how long he was able to stay here for and all that. So Eric actually managed to get a 2-year travel visa for the United Kingdom. But the thing is with this, you can only stay 6 months within a 12-month period. So in order for Eric to be here for the birth of his son and also my graduation, he had to come over at Christmas, and then he left in February for a month and then came back in March. Then he helped out with the final month of my pregnancy and he was there for the birth. It was amazing, although if you want to see my labour story, I wouldn't say he was the best of help. So Eric and Edward actually attended my graduation. It was such a good day. I loved it so much. I loved that Edward was able to be there and he didn't cry at all, like throughout the whole ceremony. He was pretty tired after. So after my graduation, we went over to Vietnam for about a month. But to be honest, during this time, I was seriously depressed. I was at my lowest. Nothing seemed to be going right for us. Me and Eric had seriously fallen out, and we actually had plans to go over to America and for me to come over as well on the waiver program. But unfortunately we cancelled that trip. We had to cancel the apartment because we just weren't in the right place. I definitely wasn't. Looking back on it now, I am so glad that I didn't go because I was so depressed. I've had so much help from my family and my friends here. I've been on medication, I've had therapy, and I know that if I had gone over to America, it would literally just be me, Eric and Edward. And the stress of not being able to have a job, because obviously it's just a travel visa, there is no way I will be able to ever work in America unless I somehow got a green card. Because I only have a sociology degree, there's not really a job for me to go into that's classed as a skilled worker, because America on their visas class skilled workers as engineers and doctors. But when I get onto that, you'll find that it is really hard to even get a job even if you do have an engineering degree, because that is what Eric is studying at the moment, and yeah, I'll tell you about that in a sec. So once I returned home from Vietnam, Eric went back to America. I began to get help with my depression, with therapy, with medication, with my family and friends. I just had so much anger towards Eric, and for about 6 months I think it was, we didn't talk at all. Yeah, I just hated him so much. There are reasons for that, but I don't really want to get into that right now. But yeah, the therapy actually made me realise that I do actually want Eric to be a part of Edward's life, and I didn't want Edward growing up thinking that I had stopped Eric from seeing Edward in any way, and I just wanted to make sure that it was Eric's choice if he wanted to be a part of Edward's life or not. So I asked him to come over at Christmas, which he did. I actually remember talking to my therapist and being like, this is how I'm gonna be when he comes over. I'm just gonna ignore him, I'm just gonna pretend he's not here, I'm gonna let him just get on with looking after Edward, and I'm just gonna step back. I had a sudden realisation that there is no point pretending to be someone that I'm not, because Eric knows me so much, and to be honest, if I had just been negative, then it might have had a negative effect on how Edward is, because obviously if I'm stressed, that reflects onto Edward. I talk a little bit about this in one of my other videos about positivity, so go and check that out, about how changing yourself can also change other people around you. Eric coming over at Christmas was surprisingly really good. We got on so well. It was so nice to see him. It just came absolutely natural to him to look after Edward. He was amazing, and I am so happy that he is back in Edward's life. Although this is where it does start to get complicated. So initially, before we broke up, Eric's plan was to graduate, get a job in LA, where he could then get sponsored for a green card. I think usually it's after a year of working with the company. But yeah, they can then sponsor you to have a green card, and yeah, it was like, it wasn't a simple process, but it was definitely doable and it was within reach. But now, with Trump capping down on immigration, this has become the most complicated thing to do for international students. Did you know that it is almost impossible for an international student within California to even get an internship? You know how jobs nowadays, I mean, I definitely know this, I've been to so many interviews and them tell you that you don't have enough experience, which is ridiculous, because how are you supposed to get the experience when you can't get it anywhere? Like, you need to start somewhere. But this is actually even harder for international students. Eric has been to career fairs organised by his university, and so many companies just say we do not accept international students, which is absolutely ridiculous. International students pay at least twice the amount as any other student does. They also have to pay up front, they don't get loans, yet they aren't even able to get an internship. They are able to get their degree, but you can't work there. So this just makes it so much more harder for Eric to even get a job, and even if he does get a job, he's only going to be able to work there for a year, which is what his visa allows him to do, and then once he finishes that year, the company isn't allowed to sponsor him anywhere. So that plan, which Eric has had since he first started university, has gone, and that is to do with Trump and his cap down on immigration. So then, since Eric can't get an internship, he was actually planning on coming over to the UK this summer for a few months so that me and him could spend time as a family and Edward could see his dad for a long period, but we can't actually do that. So another thing that Trump has done is, when an international student leaves the country and then wants to return again, their visa expires as soon as they leave the country. So if Eric came to the UK, he would have to travel all the way back to Vietnam before he goes back to America, have the whole visa interview again, hope that he gets accepted, obviously has to pay for it as well. It just makes it so much harder for internationals, and that is what Trump has done, and it's making it extremely difficult. Instead, me and Edward are going over to California to see Eric for his graduation ceremony. It's really weird in America. They actually have their ceremony before they technically finish. So although we're going to his graduation ceremony, he doesn't actually finish until December. Anyway, so we don't really know where we're gonna be in the future. Eric can't really move here either, because if, say, we got married and he came over on a marriage visa, I would have to be earning at least 20 grand, and then Eric won't be able to work for 2 years. I think it's 2 years. And that's just not possible. I can't just be earning that amount of money and Eric wasting his degree and not being able to work. It doesn't make sense. It's not an ideal plan for us. So I don't think we will be able to stay in the UK. Obviously this is majorly stressful, and it is so hard to think of a plan and stick to it, because trust me, we have tried to make so many different plans and we've had to alter them, cancel them. yeah, it is just so complicated, but at least it's an exciting life. I do appreciate the fact that I am able to travel, and I love that I'm able to show Edward the world. And yeah, so that is the story of how me and Eric met and how I absolutely hate the government. Please subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can keep up with our travels and keep up with this complicated story, and we will see where it goes. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.